Welcome to Dr. Ishinaria's Deep Dish Dialogues. Get ready, because today we are plunging into something that feels, well, pulled directly from a near-future sci-fi novel. We're talking about a mysterious new AI device reportedly brewing at OpenAI.
And it's fueled by this jaw-dropping acquisition and guided by, the design legend who gave us the iPhone.
Exactly. It's quite a story shaping up.
It really is a story of ambition, legacy, and maybe a huge shift in how we live with technology. We've pulled together everything you've shared, bits from that strange announcement video, whispers from leaked internal meetings, analyst reports.
Yeah, the source material is fascinatingly fragmented. So, our mission today. Let's untangle this whole wild tale. What is this rumored device, really?
What's the story behind this, well, pretty unlikely partnership?
And why, if we get past the hype, could this genuinely reshape our relationship with tech and maybe even with each other? Let's dig into the actual details.
Absolutely. And it all really kicked off with that incredibly unusual video drop from OpenAI.
Surreal? That was the word I saw used most often. 9 minutes long, and it felt less like a product reveal and more like, I don't know.
At a tech bro wedding announcement.
Exactly. That's the quote.
Yeah.
It had Sam Altman, Jony Ive, these two giants from AI and design, just casually chatting, walking around.
Talking about reimagining human-computer interaction. Very grand.
But here's the kicker, the part that got everyone talking.
Yeah.
They showed absolutely zero product. Nothing.
No demo, no hardware glimpse, just vibes.
Vibes and these big philosophical statements about the future. It's all about the idea.
And just having Jony Ive there, I mean, that alone is monumental.
For sure. This is the guy who designed the original iPhone. He didn't just design a phone, he kind of cracked the code, right?
Yeah.
The fundamental form factor everyone's copied for, 17 years now?
He really did set the template, so when he shows up, you listen.
And the claims they made in that chat were huge. Sam Altman called whatever this thing is the coolest piece of technology that the world will have ever seen.
Which is a bold statement, even for him.
And I himself said, everything I have learned over the last 30 years has led me to this place and this moment. I mean, that's not casual talk from the guy who defined the last 2 decades of tech products.
Not at all. And his core point in that video was really interesting and quite pointed. He basically said, we're trying to interact with powerful new AI using decades-old products.
Meaning our PCs and smartphones.
Exactly. He asked, surely there's something beyond these legacy products.
Which is kind of ironic, isn't it? The man who created the ultimate legacy product, the iPhone, now wants to kill it, essentially.
Or at least move beyond it. Which brings us to the, frankly, staggering business news that followed this cryptic video.
The acquisition. OpenAI is reportedly acquiring Jony Ive's AI startup, I.O.
Sormera, get this, $6.5 billion.
6.5 billion. It's hard to even wrap your head around that number.
To put in perspective, that's more than Disney paid for Marvel, more than Facebook, Meta paid for WhatsApp. And according to the sources you shared, it's for a company that literally just makes prototypes. It's OpenAI's biggest deal ever by a huge margin.
Okay, hold on. $6.5 billion for prototypes.
Yeah.
What are they actually buying here? It can't just be IP.
Well, the reporting suggests they're primarily acquiring a relationship.
A relationship?
Yeah, with Jony Ive and his core team. I.O. seems to be this AI-focused project or offshoot from Ive's design firm, Love From.
Which he started after leaving Apple in 2019, right? Taking a lot of key Apple designers with him?
That's the one. And the structure sounds interesting, too. I.O. is merging with OpenAI, but it's going to operate as this standalone independent unit, still led by Ive.
So it's about securing Ive and his team's talent and vision. Basically paying a premium for that connection.
That seems to be the gist of it. And the connection between Altman and Ive themselves is apparently key. They started talking maybe 2 years ago.
And the story of how they met is kind of amazing.
It is. Apparently, Ive's son, Charlie, was an early ChatGPT user and basically told his dad, you have to meet this Sam Altman guy.
Wow. So it started because of their kids using the tech.
Pretty much. And they apparently hit it off immediately, found they had this very strong shared vision and a deeply shared sense of values about technology's future.
Altman calls Ive a rare visionary. Ive calls Altman the deepest thinker he's met. Sounds like a serious meeting of minds.
It does. I've apparently mentioned being really struck by how much Altman seemed to worry about customers, about society, about culture, not just, the company's success, he felt it was a privilege to connect with someone new on that level.
You can't help but think of the comparisons, right? Steve Jobs called Ive his spiritual partner.
Exactly. This new collaboration is definitely being framed, maybe deliberately, to position Altman as a sort of successor to Jobs in that creative partnership with Ive, aiming for something big.
Okay, so we have this massive deal, a weird non-announcement, the iPhone designer, the AI leader. But what is this thing they're building? What are the leaks saying?
Right, the actual device. Well, thanks to sources like the analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, who's usually pretty plugged into supply chains, and some leaks from internal OpenAI meetings, we're starting to get a picture, though, it's still fuzzy.
And the description is unexpected.
Tiny, that's the first word. Seriously small. Apparently slightly larger than an old iPod Shuffle.
An iPod Shuffle. Wow. And the idea is you wear it.
Yeah, maybe hang it around your neck like a pendant, or just have it sit on your desk. Very unobtrusive.
Okay, tiny, wearable, or desk-based. But the really defining feature that jumps out from the reports.
No screen.
Zero screen at all.
Correct. It's planned to be entirely voice and sensor-based.
Okay, how does that work then? What kind of sensors?
It's supposedly equipped with always-on cameras and microphones.
Always on. Okay, hang on.
Yeah, let's pause on that. It's not just for taking commands like Siri or Alexa. The key phrase used is environmental awareness.
Environmental awareness. Meaning?
It's designed to constantly understand your surroundings, your context, what's happening around you.
Always on cameras and microphones. Hanging around my neck or sitting on my desk. That immediately screams privacy. Nightmare to me. I mean, seriously.
That is absolutely the elephant in the room. The major unavoidable concern, and we definitely need to get into that, but the concept they're pushing is ambient AI.
Ambient AI.
The idea is that the AI is just seamlessly woven into your environment. It's always listening, always potentially watching, to understand your context without you needing to pull out a phone and tap on a screen.
Like that kitchen example that was reported. You walk in, ask what's for dinner,
and it just knows. It knows what's in the fridge because maybe the camera saw you put groceries away earlier. It knows your dietary restrictions, your schedule. Maybe it even infers your mood from your voice tone.
That's ambitious. And a little creepy, let's be honest.
Ambitious and potentially creepy, yes. It's meant to be proactive and context-aware in a way current assistants just aren't. Now, crucially, it's not expected to replace your phone or laptop, not at first anyway. It apparently connects to your existing devices, like your MacBook or iPhone, for the heavy lifting, the processing power.
So it's more like a smart remote or a companion device.
The internal description was reportedly a third core device sitting alongside your MacBook and iPhone.
A third core device. Interesting framing. Okay, what's the timeline for this ambitious, tiny, screenless, potentially privacy-invading pendant?
They seem to be targeting late 2026 for a first launch, with mass production really ramping up in 2027.
So it's still a couple of years out.
Yeah. And an interesting manufacturing detail, they're apparently planning to build it in Vietnam, explicitly to avoid geopolitical risks associated with China.
Smart move, probably.
Yeah.
And the name IO, that's just a placeholder, right?
Yeah, just a working title. The actual product name is still top secret.
Okay. This whole project, especially with that $6.5 billion price tag, it obviously sent shockwaves. Why? What's the bigger picture here?
Well, it's seen as much more than just launching one new gadget. It's perceived as a major move in what one source dramatically called the race to define the next era of human civilization.
Wow, okay. Defining the next era, that sounds huge.
It is, but think about it. Every single major tech company, Meta, Google, Apple, Amazon, they're all desperately trying to figure out what comes after the smartphone. What's the first AI device that people will actually use every day?
We've seen so many attempts already, haven't we? Meta's pushing their Ray-Ban smart glasses hard.
Google's trying again with Android XR after the spectacular failure of Google Glass.
Apple's rumored to be working on their own smart glasses for maybe 2027. Amazon has those Echo frames.
Plus dozens of startups building AI glasses and pins and whatnot. They all see the prize.
Which is?
Control. Whoever cracks the code on the first widely adopted daily use AI device basically controls the next major computing platform.
Right. They get to shape how billions of people interact with information, with commerce, with each other, with reality itself. Maybe for the next 20 years.
Exactly. One source made the incredibly bold claim that the winner of this race will be more powerful than whoever controlled the smartphone era. The stakes are just astronomical.
Okay, but before we get totally carried away by the next era of human civilization hype, let's get real for a second. This space, AI hardware, it's already littered with spectacular failures, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely litter. We've seen some very public, very painful flameouts just recently. The most notorious probably being the Humane AI pin.
Oh boy, Humane.
Yeah.
That was a rough view.
Brutal doesn't even cover it. $700 up front, plus a 24/4 monthly subscription.
And the reviews were just savage. I remember one calling it the worst product I've ever reviewed.
What went wrong? You might ask what didn't go wrong.
Yeah.
It overheated constantly. They literally had to warn users to stop using the charging case because of fire risks.
Oh, why?
Battery life was abysmal, like 2 to 4 hours maybe. Basic stuff, setting a timer, an alarm, often just failed or took ages. The AI responses were slow, like 30 seconds plus, and frequently wrong.
And didn't people complain about the magnet pulling their shirts down?
That too. The core magnetic design, while maybe clever on paper, just didn't work well in practice.
Oof, what a disaster.
Total disaster. Humane burned through $240 million in funding, got acquired by HP for presumably pennies on the dollar, and the product's dead. Even Jony Ive himself reportedly called it a very poor product.
Okay, what about the Rabbit R1? That got a lot of buzz initially. Seemed maybe more promising.
Another cautionary tale, unfortunately. Cheaper, $200, no subscription, looked kind of cool and retro.
Yeah.
But the reviews quickly pointed out it was mostly just an Android app in a fancy plastic box. Battery died in like 4 hours just sitting there. It only worked with a tiny number of apps initially. Spotify, Uber, DoorDash, Midjourney, that was about it.
And the core functions weren't reliable.
Often unreliable, and usually slower than just pulling out your phone. Now, some say updates have made it a bit better over the last year, but it certainly hasn't revolutionized anything. I've apparently dismissed this one too as a very poor product.
So amidst all these failures, is anything actually working right now in this wearable AI space?
Well, the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses seem to be the closest thing to a functional product that people might actually buy.
Okay.
They're around $300. They look pretty much like normal Ray-Bans, which is a huge plus. They take decent photos and videos. The Meta AI integration works reasonably well. Battery life is maybe 6 hours, and you can even live stream from them.
So if you want smart glasses today, those are kind of the default option.
Sources suggest they're the best bet right now, yeah.
Any other contenders?
Amazon has their Echo frames. They're audio only, though basically Alexa in your glasses frame. Battery's okay for listening. You can get prescription lenses. But using Alexa out loud in public still feels a bit awkward for many.
And Google. They're trying again.
Yeah, post-glass, they're working on something under the Android XR banner, partnering with Warby Parker, promising better AI, better features, but they're not actually out yet.
So all these attempts, successful or not, they really highlight the core challenge, don't they? You're trying to create something that is genuinely better than the phone in our pocket.
Exactly. And that phone is incredibly powerful, incredibly versatile, and let's face it, incredibly addictive.
Our phones are designed that way, right? Intentionally. By psychologists, by designers, to be these little dopamine slot machines.
Visual interfaces, instant gratification, endless notifications. It's a really hard habit, a hard device to beat.
So can talking to a pendant or tapping your glasses really compete with that immediate visual, tactile dopamine hit we get from our screens?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? And that's where this OpenAI and Jony Ive combination gets so interesting. Why might they actually pull it off where others have stumbled so badly?
Well, for starters, they have the AI part sorted, presumably. ChatGPT actually works consistently for millions of people. That's not trivial.
That's a massive advantage. A voice-first or sensor-first interface needs reliably good AI, otherwise it's just frustrating.
And then you have Jony Ive. The sources are pretty clear. He has this reputation, this track record of never designing something truly ugly or unusable. He makes tech desirable.
He brings that crucial human-centered design thinking, like focus on simplicity, intuition, making things people want to use, which seem missing from things like the Humane pen.
Plus, the framing is maybe clever, not trying to replace the iPhone immediately, but be this third core device. Maybe that lowers the bar slightly, makes it less intimidating.
Potentially. It's not demanding you throw away your phone tomorrow. It's saying, here's something different, something that complements it. And that promise of true environmental awareness, understanding context, not just commands, that is a potential leap beyond Siri or Alexa.
And of course, that $6.5 billion buys them serious resources, a lot of runway for R&D, attracting the best talent to actually build this very difficult thing.
Exactly. But you flagged it earlier, and we have to circle back to it because it's impossible to ignore.
Privacy.
The always-on cameras, the always-on microphones. For environmental awareness, it just sounds inherently invasive.
It really does. An ambient AI device that is constantly passively observing your life to understand context. By its very nature, that's a privacy nightmare scenario for a lot of people.
Are we, as a society, actually ready for that? For AI to be that deeply embedded, that observant in our homes, our workplaces, our conversations?
It feels like a huge leap. It's one thing for me to consciously activate Siri or point my phone camera. It's entirely another for a device around my neck to be passively soaking up my surroundings, my conversations, my actions, potentially all the time.
That's the trust hurdle they have to clear. It's massive.
Yep.
Can they design privacy into this thing in a way that feels genuinely safe, genuinely transparent, and maybe more importantly, can they convince people that the benefit, whatever it is, outweighs this enormous privacy concern?
This actually ties into another whole layer of this story, particularly on the Sam Altman side, doesn't it? This push towards ambient AI feels kind of connected to his other big project.
Right. Tools for Humanity, WorldCoin.
Exactly. Sam Altman is also co-founder of that company.
And that project is focused on something that seems almost purpose-built for the challenges an AI-filled future presents, verifying that you're actually human.
Right. Their main thing is the Orb. Now, the Orb Mini, this big, shiny, robotic eyeball scanner.
Scans your iris, creates a unique blockchain-based world ID. The pitch is basically, prove this person is real and has irises to prove it.
Which sounds kind of dystopian, but their argument is that it's necessary, right?
That's the stated motivation. Altman and the Tools for Humanity team argue that a lack of trust is an urgent crisis of the modern internet, and it's only getting worse with AI generating convincing deep fakes, fake accounts, all of that.
So they believe the next evolution of the internet needs this layer of biometric proof of personhood.
That's the bet they're making. And they are lining up real partnerships. Sources mention deals with Visa for debit card integration, Match Group for verifying humans on dating apps in Japan.
Verifying dating profiles. Okay.
And Razer, the gaming company, to try and weed out bots in online games. The idea is scan your eye, get your crypto ID, then use it to shop, flirt, game, whatever, supposedly only with other verified humans.
Okay, but again, the privacy alarms are blaring, aren't they?
Yeah.
Scanning and storing the biometric data of potentially millions, maybe billions of people.
Absolutely. It sounds incredibly risky. Tools for Humanity claims they have foolproof security systems, that the data is anonymized, that they don't store the actual iris images, just a cryptographic hash derived from it. They insist it's privacy-centric.
Still, asking people to trust a company with scans of their eyeballs, that is a monumental leap of faith.
It really is. And it highlights this fundamental tension we're heading towards. What's harder? Trusting that the person you're interacting with online is genuinely human, or trusting a company to safeguard your most fundamental biometric identity?
And connecting this back to the main OpenAI device, it feels like Altman is thinking about the whole ecosystem. The ambient AI device interacts with the world.
And WorldCoin potentially verifies the humans interacting in that world. It shows he's considering the underlying identity infrastructure needed for this AI-saturated future he's actively trying to build. It adds another layer to the potential societal impact.
Definitely food for thought there. Okay, let's pivot back to Jony Ive for a moment, and specifically his legacy, his connection to his former home. This whole venture must have significant implications for Apple.
Oh, absolutely. When the news of the acquisition and partnership broke, Apple's stock reportedly took a noticeable dip, maybe 1.8% to 2.3%, according to sources.
Which isn't insignificant. It shows the market sees this as a credible potential threat.
Definitely. And Apple's position in the whole AI race is often described as, well, not exactly leading the pack.
Yeah, compared to OpenAI, Google, Meta, who really jumped on generative AI early, Apple seems to have been playing catch-up. Siri, even after more than a decade, still feels pretty limited, often frustratingly so.
Sources even noted that ChatGPT is basically eating Siri's lunch. People literally ask Siri to open ChatGPT for them because it's just more capable.
Apple did announce their Apple Intelligence plans recently, and that partnership to integrate ChatGPT into iOS. But now OpenAI isn't just a partner, they're potentially becoming a hardware competitor.
Led by the guy who designed the modern Apple look and feel. It's more than just business competition. It feels deeply symbolic, doesn't it?
It really does. The person most responsible for the physical form of Apple's golden era is now working with the company that could, potentially, create the device that displaces the iPhone.
It feels particularly potent given Apple's perceived innovation slowdown lately. The Vision Pro is technically amazing, sure, but it hasn't exactly set the world on fire in terms of sales. And like you said, sources claim Apple Intelligence wasn't even an idea when ChatGPT exploded onto the scene in late 2022.
There's a narrative in the reporting that Apple kind of missed the boat on generative AI, maybe because of a philosophical reluctance. Seeing AI as too messy, too unpredictable compared to their very polished, tightly controlled user experiences.
Possibly. And there's an emotional angle, too. Apple used to feel like magic, didn't it? Some sources suggest they've maybe lost a bit of that spark. Now Jony Ive is taking his design philosophy, his focus on humanity and simplicity, over to OpenAI.
It's telling that even a top Apple exec, Eddie Q, reportedly admitted in an antitrust trial that you may not need an iPhone 10 years from now because of AI. That's a big admission from inside Apple.
Wow. And think about Ive's personal perspective, too. He's reportedly said things recently suggesting he feels he kind of helped create this problem, referring to screen addiction, smartphone obsession, and now he's trying to fix it.
Imagine that feeling, creating the device that becomes essentially the new cigarette for society, and then feeling compelled to build the off-ramp. That's got to be a powerful motivator.
It really reframes this whole venture, doesn't it? It's not just a business play. For Ive, it might be a deeply personal mission.
So let's bring it all together, back to this mystery device in the big picture. The ambition here is just massive. Create something completely new, not just a better phone, not glasses, not just a smart speaker.
But an entirely new product category. That's the goal.
A voice-first, AI-native tool. Ambient, unobtrusive, genuinely helpful, without needing you to constantly stare at a screen.
And they're apparently aiming high on production, too, targeting 100 million units eventually. That's huge for a company without Apple's established manufacturing and retail machine.
The core questions just keep coming back, though, don't they? Will it actually solve a real problem that my phone doesn't already solve well enough?
Will people feel comfortable wearing or using an always-on device like this in public, especially with the privacy fears?
And can it genuinely deliver a better, less addictive, more human experience than the screens we're all so glued to?
Big questions.
Okay.
But if they somehow manage to pull it off,
If they nail the AI, the design, the user experience, and somehow address the privacy concerns adequately,
then the outcome could be truly transformative. It could fundamentally change how we design technology, how we use it, how we even think about devices like the iPhone. It could genuinely be the start of a post-smartphone era.
But it's still a big if. We're talking late 2026, 2027 at the earliest. So much can change. The privacy hurdle is enormous. The business model isn't clear. Mass appeal is never guaranteed for something so different.
Absolutely. Lots of uncertainty remains. Yet you do get a sense, reading between the lines of the reports, of real conviction from inside the project. They seem to believe they are literally on the brink of a new generation of technology that can make us our better selves. Whether they're right remains to be seen.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Considering the profound privacy implications of an always-on ambient AI device monitoring your environment, and Sam Altman's parallel vision for verified human identity through things like iris scanning, are you ready to trust the designer of the iPhone to lead you off your iPhone and into a world where AI is ambient and your identity might become biometric? What really stands out to you about this potential future? Help us reach more audiences by liking the video and subscribing to